I was 24 years old when my father looked me straight in the eye across the Thanksgiving table and said, "You'll get nothing from this family. Not a single dollar. Not a single memory. Nothing." The words hit me like a slap. Everyone froze. My fork clattered against the plate. My mother's face went pale. My older brother Marcus smirked into his wine glass, barely hiding his satisfaction. His wife Jennifer, my father's golden daughter-in-law, placed her hand over his, a gesture of united cruelty. "Dad, I just asked about Grandma's recipe book," I whispered, my voice shaking. "I don't care what you asked about, Emma," he snapped. "You've been nothing but a disappointment. You dropped out of law school. You work at some coffee shop. You're an embarrassment." The dining room was suffocating. The chandelier above us suddenly felt too bright, the turkey on the table too perfect, the smiles too fake. 20 people sat around that table. Cousins, aunts, uncles. My grandmother at the head, silent, her wrinkled hands folded on her lap. Not one person defended me. "She doesn't deserve anything from this family," Jennifer added, her voice sugary and venomous. "Honestly, it's a blessing you're cutting her off now before she wastes more of everyone's time." I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry, but I just sat there, frozen, my entire existence reduced to nothing in front of everyone I'd ever loved. Then my grandmother stood up slowly. Her chair scraped against the hardwood floor. "Emma," she said quietly, her voice steady, "come with me." I followed Grandma through the hallway, my legs shaking, my vision blurred with unshed tears. Behind us, I heard my father's voice boom, "Mother, don't you dare." But Grandma kept walking. She led me to her bedroom at the end of the hall, the one room in this massive house that still smelled like lavender and old books. She closed the door behind us with a soft click, shutting out the chaos. "Sit down, sweetheart," she said, pointing to the edge of her bed. I sat. My hands were trembling. "Grandma, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cause a scene. I just wanted—" "You have nothing to apologize for," she interrupted, her tone firm but warm. She moved to her dresser and opened the bottom drawer. From beneath layers of folded quilts, she pulled out a thick manila envelope, worn at the edges, sealed with red wax. My heart pounded. "Your father thinks he controls everything," she said, turning to face me. "He thinks because he's the eldest son, because he runs the family business, because he married into money, that he gets to decide who matters and who doesn't." She handed me the envelope. It was heavier than I expected. "What is this?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "The truth," Grandma said. Her eyes, sharp and clear despite her 82 years, locked onto mine. "This envelope contains documents your father has been trying to bury for 15 years. Deeds, contracts, bank statements. Proof of what he's really done to this family." I stared at the envelope like it might explode. "Grandma, I don't understand." "You will," she said, her voice suddenly strong, almost fierce. "But not tonight. Tonight, you take this and you leave. Go home, read everything. And then, Emma, you come back here next Sunday for brunch. Everyone will be here again, and you will show them who you really are." Outside the door, I heard footsteps. Heavy, angry. My father was coming. The door flew open before I could even stand up. My father stormed in, his face red with rage. "What the hell do you think you're doing, Mother?" Grandma didn't flinch. She stood between me and him like a shield, her small frame somehow towering in that moment. "I'm giving my granddaughter what's rightfully hers," she said calmly. "That's my inheritance you're messing with," he shouted, pointing at the envelope in my hands. "She has no right." "She has every right, Richard," Grandma cut him off. "More than you ever did." Marcus appeared in the doorway, Jennifer right behind him, her arms crossed, her expression smug. They looked like vultures circling a dying animal. "Emma, give that back," Marcus said, his voice low and threatening. "You don't know what you're holding." I clutched the envelope tighter against my chest. "Why? What's in here that scares you so much?" Jennifer laughed, cold and sharp. "Oh, sweetie, you really think you're special now? Your grandmother is senile. Whatever she gave you is probably just old shopping lists and expired coupons." "Shut your mouth," Grandma snapped, and Jennifer actually recoiled. You have no idea what you're talking about, girl. You married into this family 5 minutes ago and you think you run it. My father stepped closer to me. Emma, I'm warning you. Give me that envelope right now, or you'll regret it. Are you threatening your own daughter? Grandma's voice was ice. I'm protecting what's mine, he roared. His fists were clenched, his eyes wild, and for the first time in my life, I was genuinely afraid of my own father. Get out, Grandma said, pointing to the door. All 3 of you, out of my room now. You're making a mistake, Mother, Marcus said darkly. A big one. The only mistake I made, Grandma replied, her voice steady as stone, was not doing this sooner. They left. But not before my father turned back one last time and said, You open that envelope, Emma, and you're dead to me. The door slammed shut. I sat in my tiny apartment that night, the envelope on my kitchen table, staring at it like it might bite me. The red wax seal gleamed under the overhead light. My hands were still shaking. My father's words echoed in my head. You're dead to me. Maybe I already was. I made myself a cup of tea I didn't drink. I paced the room 7 times. I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from Marcus, 2 from Jennifer, and 1 text from my mother that just said, Please don't do this. Do what? Read the truth? Finally, at 11:47 p.m., I broke the seal. The documents spilled out onto the table. Dozens of pages. Legal papers, bank statements, photocopies of handwritten letters, and on top, a note in Grandma's shaky handwriting. Emma, your grandfather wanted you to have everything. They stole it. Now take it back. My heart stopped. I started reading. The first document was a will. My grandfather's will, dated 3 months before he died when I was 9 years old. In it, he left the family estate, the business, and the majority of his assets not to my father, but to me. To be held in trust until I turned 25. I read it again. And again. This can't be real, I whispered. But it was. Notarized, witnessed, legal. The next document was a transfer deed, dated 1 week after my grandfather's funeral, signed by my father, claiming the estate under a revised will that was supposedly found later, but the notary signature on that one was smudged. The witness was my father's business partner, a man who'd been arrested for fraud 4 years ago. My hands started trembling so hard I almost dropped the papers. My father had forged a will. He'd stolen my inheritance. For 15 years, he'd been living in a house that was supposed to be mine, running a business that was supposed to be mine, treating me like garbage while spending my money. I kept reading. There were bank statements showing withdrawals of hundreds of thousands of dollars funneled into accounts under Marcus's name. There were emails between my father and Jennifer discussing how to keep Emma in the dark. There was even a recorded conversation transcript. Grandma had been collecting evidence for years. I sat back in my chair, my heart pounding, my entire worldview shattered. They didn't just hate me. They'd robbed me. And now I had proof. I didn't sleep that night. I read every document 5 times. I took pictures of everything. I made copies. I emailed them to myself, to a cloud storage account, to a friend I trusted. I wasn't taking any chances. By the time the sun came up, I felt hollow, empty, like someone had scooped out my insides and left only rage behind. My phone buzzed. A text from my father. Last chance, Emma. Bring the documents back and we'll forget this ever happened. Keep them and I'll destroy you. I didn't reply. Instead, I called the one person I thought might help me. My grandfather's old lawyer, Mr. Donovan. He'd retired years ago, but his number was still in my grandmother's address book, tucked inside the envelope. He answered on the 3rd ring. Emma Harris? His voice was gravelly, surprised. I haven't heard that name in a long time. Mr. Donovan, I need your help, I said, my voice cracking. I found documents. My grandfather's real will. Evidence that my father forged everything. There was a long silence. I was wondering when this day would come, he finally said. Your grandmother called me 2 weeks ago. Told me she was done protecting her son. She asked me to be ready. My throat tightened. Ready for what? To take him down, he said simply. Can you come to my office Monday morning? Bring everything you have. We're going to fix this, Emma. Once and for all. I hung up and sobbed. Not sad tears. Angry ones. Relieved ones. For the first time in my life, someone believed me. Sunday brunch arrived like a storm on the horizon. Grandma had texted me the night before. Come at noon. Bring the documents. It's time. I wore a black dress. Simple. Professional. I pulled my hair back. I looked older than 24. I felt older. When I walked into the dining room, everyone was already there. My father at the head of the table. Marcus beside him. Jennifer across from them, her eyes narrowing the moment she saw me. My mother looked terrified. Aunts and uncles pretended to be busy with their food. You've got some nerve showing up here, my father said, standing abruptly, his chair scraping backward. I didn't flinch. Grandma invited me. Sit down, Richard, Grandma said from her spot at the far end. Her voice was calm. Too calm. I sat next to her. I placed the manila envelope on the table in front of me. Jennifer leaned forward, her smile poisonous. What's that, Emma? Your little revenge fantasy in a folder? Something like that, I said quietly. Marcus laughed. This is pathetic. You really think anyone here cares about whatever lies you've cooked up? I looked at my father. His jaw was clenched. His hands were flat on the table. He knew. I opened the envelope slowly, deliberately. The sound of paper sliding against paper was the only noise in the room. Emma, don't, my mother whispered, her eyes pleading, but I was done being quiet. I pulled out the first document, the original will, and placed it in the center of the table where everyone could see it. This, I said, my voice steady, is my grandfather's real will, written 3 months before he died, notarized by Mr. Donovan, witnessed by 2 independent parties. In it, he leaves the estate, the business, and 70% of his assets to me, held in trust until I turned 25. The room went silent. My father's face drained of color. Marcus leaned forward, squinting at the document. That's impossible. Dad left everything to our father. We all know that. No, I said, looking him dead in the eye. That's what you were told. That's what Dad wanted you to believe. I slid the second document across the table. This is the forged will, the one filed 1 week after Grandpa's funeral. Notice anything strange? The notary signature is smudged. The witness is Dad's business partner, a man later convicted of fraud. And the date? It's backdated to 2 days before Grandpa's death. Except Grandpa was in the hospital that day, barely conscious. There's a medical record to prove it. Jennifer's smile vanished. Uncle Tom, sitting near the middle of the table, picked up the document and studied it closely. Richard, is this true? Of course it's not true. My father exploded. She's making this up. She's trying to steal from us. Steal? I stood up, my voice ringing through the room like a bell. You stole from me. For 15 years you've been living off my inheritance. Grandma placed her hand on mine, steadying me. Sit down, sweetheart, she said gently. Let them see the rest. I pulled out the bank statements next. Pages and pages of transfers. Money moving from the estate accounts into private accounts under my father's and Marcus's names. $370,000, I said, my voice shaking now. That's how much you've taken in the last 5 years alone. Money that was supposed to be mine. Aunt Linda gasped. Uncle Tom's face went hard. And this, I said, pulling out the final piece, is a transcript of a recorded conversation between Dad and Jennifer from 2 months ago. I began to read aloud. Jennifer says, "What if Emma finds out?" Dad replies, "She won't, she's too stupid and too broken." We've made sure of that. The silence that followed was deafening. Jennifer's face turned the color of ash. Marcus stared at the transcript like it had personally betrayed him. My mother covered her mouth with both hands, tears streaming down her face. My father just stood there, his fists clenched, his breathing ragged. "You recorded us?" Jennifer hissed, her voice venomous. "That's illegal. You can't use that. Actually," a deep voice came from the doorway. "In this state, one-party consent is all that's required for recordings. And your grandmother was that party." Everyone turned. Mr. Donovan stood in the entrance to the dining room, wearing a sharp gray suit, a leather briefcase in his hand. He looked exactly like what he was, a lawyer who'd spent 40 years destroying people like my father in court. "Who the hell are you?" Marcus demanded. "James Donovan," he said, stepping into the room with the confidence of a man who'd already won. "I was your grandfather's attorney for 32 years. And as of this morning, I'm Emma's attorney as well." My father's face twisted with rage. "You have no right to be here." "I have every right," Mr. Donovan replied smoothly. "Mrs. Harris invited me. And considering the evidence of fraud, forgery, and embezzlement I've reviewed over the past 48 hours, I'd say my presence here is not only warranted, it's necessary." He placed his briefcase on the table and opened it, pulling out a thick stack of papers. "These are cease and desist orders," he said, sliding copies to my father and Marcus. "Effective immediately, you are both barred from accessing any accounts tied to the Harris family estate. I've already filed injunctions with the court. By tomorrow morning, every asset you've stolen will be frozen pending a full investigation." Marcus shot to his feet. "You can't do this!" "I already did," Mr. Donovan said, his voice like steel. Jennifer turned on me, her face contorted with fury. "You little bitch! You ungrateful, selfish— Enough!" Grandma's voice cracked through the room like a whip. She stood up slowly, her hands gripping the edge of the table. "You will not speak to my granddaughter that way. Not in my house. Not ever." Jennifer opened her mouth to argue, but Grandma cut her off. "You married into this family thinking you'd found a golden ticket?" Grandma said coldly. "But you didn't marry a man, Jennifer. You married a thief, and now everyone knows it." Uncle Tom stood up, his expression grim. "Richard, I think you need to leave." "This is my mother's house," my father roared. "And it's my house," Grandma said firmly. "And I'm telling you to get out." My father looked around the table, desperate, searching for allies. But no one met his eyes. Not even my mother. My father's face twisted into something ugly, something desperate. "You're all going to regret this," he said, his voice low and threatening. "Every single one of you. You think she's innocent? You think she deserves anything?" He pointed at me, his finger shaking. "She's weak. She's always been weak. She quit law school because she couldn't handle it. She works at a coffee shop because she has no ambition. She's nothing." I felt the words like daggers, but I didn't look away. "I quit law school," I said quietly, "because you told me every single day that I wasn't smart enough, that I'd never be as good as Marcus, that I was wasting everyone's time and money." My voice cracked, but I kept going. "I work at a coffee shop because after I dropped out, you cut me off completely. No support, no help, nothing. I've been surviving on my own for 3 years while you spent my inheritance on vacation homes and luxury cars." Aunt Linda's hand went to her chest. Uncle Tom shook his head slowly. "Emma," my mother whispered, tears running down her face. "I didn't know." "I swear I didn't know about the will." "But you knew how he treated me," I said, turning to her. "You knew and you said nothing. You just stood there every single time and let it happen." She looked down, unable to meet my eyes. Mr. Donovan cleared his throat. "If we could return to the matter at hand—" "No!" my father shouted, slamming his fist on the table so hard the dishes rattled. "I built this business. I turned Dad's failing company into an empire. Me. Not some spoiled little girl who couldn't even finish school." "You built it with Emma's money?" Mr. Donovan said flatly. "Money that was held in trust. Money you had no legal right to touch." Marcus stood up, his face red. "This is insane. Dad, we need to call our lawyer." "Your lawyer won't help you," Mr. Donovan interrupted. "Because what your father did is called fraud. And what you did, Marcus, accepting funds you knew were illegally obtained, makes you an accessory." Marcus's face went pale. Jennifer grabbed her purse. "I'm not staying for this. Marcus, we're leaving." "Sit down," Grandma said, her voice sharp as a blade. Jennifer froze. "You're not going anywhere until Emma is finished," Grandma continued, her eyes blazing. "You wanted to be part of this family? Then you'll face what this family has done." I took a deep breath and pulled out the last document. My hands were trembling, but my voice was steady. "This is a lawsuit," I said. "Filed this morning. against Richard Harris and Marcus Harris for fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy. Mr. Donovan is representing me, and according to him, we have enough evidence to not only recover everything you stole, but to press criminal charges. The room exploded. Marcus lunged across the table, his face purple with rage. "You're destroying this family!" Uncle Tom grabbed him by the shoulder and shoved him back into his chair. "Sit down, Marcus. You've done enough." Jennifer was on her feet, shaking, her voice shrill. "This is a setup. That old woman has been manipulating all of you. She's senile. She doesn't know what she's doing." "I know exactly what I'm doing," Grandma said, her voice cold and clear. "I'm correcting a 15-year-old mistake. I should have stopped Richard the day of the funeral, but I was grieving. I was weak. I trusted my son to do the right thing." She paused, her eyes locking onto my father. "That was my mistake, and I've regretted it every single day since." My father's expression shifted. The anger melted away, replaced by something worse, desperation. "Mom, please," he said, his voice suddenly soft, pleading. "Please don't do this. I'm your son. Your only son. Dad would have wanted—" "Don't you dare!" Grandma cut him off, her voice shaking with fury. "Don't you dare tell me what your father would have wanted. He wrote that will for a reason, Richard. He saw what you were becoming. He saw your greed, your cruelty, and he made a choice to protect Emma from you." Tears were streaming down my face now, but I didn't wipe them away. Mr. Donovan stepped forward, his voice calm and professional. "Here's what happens next. Within 48 hours, all assets will be audited. Any funds illegally transferred will be returned to the estate, and to Emma. The house, the business, all of it will be placed under independent management until the court decides final ownership." He looked directly at my father. "You can cooperate, or you can fight this in court. But I'll tell you right now, you'll lose. The evidence is overwhelming." My father said nothing. He just stared at the table, his hands trembling. Marcus stood up slowly. "Come on, Jennifer. We're done here." "You're not done," Mr. Donovan said sharply. "You're both named in the lawsuit. If you leave this state before the hearing, I'll have warrants issued for your arrest." Jennifer's face crumpled. She sank back into her chair, sobbing. I looked around the table at the faces of my family. Some looked shocked. Some looked ashamed. My mother was crying silently, her hands covering her face. And then my father did something I never expected. He looked up at me, his eyes red, his voice broken. "I'm sorry," he said. "Emma, I'm so sorry. I never meant for it to go this far. I thought I deserved it. I thought I'd earned it." The room held its breath. "You're sorry?" I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "You destroyed me. You made me feel worthless. You stole my future. And now you're sorry?" He nodded, tears running down his face. I stood up, gathering the documents, my hands steady now. "Your apology means nothing," I said. "But the truth? The truth means everything." 3 months later, I stood in front of the family estate, my estate, with the keys in my hand. The court had ruled in my favor. Every single asset my father had stolen was returned. The business, the properties, the accounts, all of it. Mr. Donovan had been right. The evidence was overwhelming. My father didn't even fight it in the end. He couldn't. Marcus and Jennifer had filed for divorce. He'd moved to another state, trying to rebuild his life away from the scandal. She'd gone back to her parents, humiliated and broke. My father had been charged with fraud. He took a plea deal, 5 years probation, community service, and a permanent ban from managing any family assets. He'd aged 10 years in 3 months. I'd seen him once since the trial, at a mandatory mediation session. He couldn't even look at me. My mother had stayed with him. I wasn't surprised. She'd called me twice, trying to apologize, trying to explain. I didn't answer. Maybe someday I would, but not yet. I unlocked the front door and stepped inside. The house smelled like dust and memories. Grandma was waiting for me in the living room, sitting in her favorite chair by the window. "Welcome home, sweetheart," she said, smiling. I sat down beside her, tears streaming down my face. "I can't believe this is real." "It's real," she said, taking my hand. And your grandfather would be so proud of you. I couldn't have done it without you, I whispered. Yes, you could have, she said firmly. You're stronger than you know, Emma. You always have been. I just gave you the tools. You did the rest. We sat in silence for a moment, the afternoon sun streaming through the windows. What will you do now? She asked. I looked around the house that was supposed to be mine all along, the house I'd been made to feel I didn't deserve. I'm going back to school, I said. I'm finishing my law degree, and then I'm going to help people like me. People who've been lied to, stolen from, made to feel small. Grandma squeezed my hand. That sounds perfect. I pulled out my phone and opened the voice recorder app. I'd been documenting everything, every conversation, every revelation, every moment of this journey. And now I was going to share it. I hit record. My name is Emma Harris, I said, my voice steady and strong. And this is the story of how I took back everything they tried to steal from me. Not just my inheritance, my voice, my worth, my future. I paused, looking at Grandma, who nodded encouragingly. At a family dinner, my father told me I'd get nothing. He was wrong, because my grandmother handed me the real documents. And those documents didn't just give me money or property. They gave me the truth, and the truth set me free. I stopped the recording and smiled. For the first time in years, I felt whole. The girl who'd been told she was nothing had become the woman who owned everything, and it was only the beginning.